Our guest speaker is recognized for his pioneering and outstanding contributions in the field of plant breeding, specifically tropical vegetables and tropical white potato breeding. He is a member and a chair of the Agricultural Sciences Division of the National Academy of Science and Technology, the advisory body to the President of the Republic of the Philippines, and Cabinet on policies concerning science and technology in the country. He is also the chair of the Technical Committee for Agricultural Sciences of the Scientific Career System. Our speaker grew up as a rice farmer but started a decades-long career in scientific agriculture when he was awarded a full scholarship at the UP College of Agriculture. He took up Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, major in Animal Science from the then UPCA, and graduated magna cum laude. He then earned his master's degree in plant physiology from UP Los Baños and his doctoral degree in plant breeding and international agriculture from Cornell University, USA. His career spanned working as a researcher and teacher for the academe from UPLB and UP Mindanao, for the private industry in the East-West Seed Company, and for the government in the Philippine Rice Research Institute, and also for international research service centers or the International Potato Center. At present, he is an active advocate of a food system that nurtures consumer and environmental health, adapts to climate change, and is respectful of traditional food habits. He leads a multi-sectoral team preparing a foresight for feeding Metro Manila in 2050. Ladies and gentlemen, academician Eufemio T. Rasco Jr.
Let me thank the College of Agriculture and Food Science for this opportunity to share ideas about food system transformation. The title of my talk says it all. Our food future can be guided by tradition, but we need to explore the science behind this tradition. By way of background, in 2019, the National Academy of Science and Technology led a multi-sectoral team of 15 organizations in formulating a food systems vision for the Philippines with the title Feeding Metro Manila in 2050. This slide shows the vision as we imagine it. Note the circularity, the central role of consumers, and feedback loops. The vision looks forward to the time when food systems will be built around population centers with an empowered consumer and farmers providing leadership. This is a radical departure from the present system where the industry and the industry-led globalization movement practically dictate what we eat, how it is brought to our plates, and how much we pay for it. I will not dwell on this vision in its entirety. Rather, I refer you to the website of the National Academy of Science and Technology. The NAST vision describes 4 features of the transformed food system. We can look at this as guide or goals for our own work. First is nutrition and health of consumers. Second, justice for farmers. 3, health of the environment. And lastly, nurturing traditional food culture. I've talked repeatedly over the last 2 years in many webinars about the first 3 features. Thus, I will refer to these features only in passing today. I'm happy to note that no less than the United Nations has championed the transformation of food systems as its theme for this year, recognizing the significance of the features we have adopted for our vision. Next month will be the culmination of a series of dialogues focused on the food systems theme. In these dialogues, concerns about nutrition, justice for farmers, and the health of the environment have been ventilated and now inching into the consciousness of the academe, policymakers, and the general public. Such concern is reflected in slogans such as nutrition-sensitive agriculture, ANI and KITA, and regenerative agriculture. But as we are all aware, these slogans are rather empty. The reality is the exact opposite. Consumers are still malnourished, farmers are still poor, and the environment continues to suffer under the existing food system. Thus, we have a lot to do to steer the transformation of the food system to these three objectives. I'm aware that CAPS is very much involved in this effort, and I can only encourage CAPS to strengthen its R&D. My talk today will focus on feature number 4, nurturing traditional food culture. This is one topic that is barely touched in these courses about transforming food systems. Food culture is a concept that we associate with culture or kinagawian rather than science. But I will argue in this talk that there is science behind traditional food culture. This is the science we should not ignore and instead study and serve as an inspiration if not a template for transforming our food system. My inspiration for this talk is my own backyard. This photo of santol and mabolo fruits on the ground was taken yesterday near UPLB. As you can see, many of the fruits lay on the ground, not because of a typhoon, but because they were over mature. I could not use all of them, so they were left to rot on the ground. It's not that I did not want to sell or give them away. They are so cheap that it will cost me more to pick them up and bring them to the market than what I will earn from selling them. My own caretaker does not want to eat them. Neighbors who are supposed to be hungry because of the pandemic do not want them either. And I'm reminded that many of our local fruits suffer the same fate. At IPB behind Module B, there are balimbing trees that are so prolific, but the fruits rot on the ground, ignored by everyone. The staff of IPB don't want them. During the mango season, I see mango fruits fallen from trees on the roadways in central and northern Luzon, crushed by vehicles. Usually, these are from varieties that consumers reject, such as the Indian mango. Why are we rejecting this food now? I'm putting emphasis on the word now because I'm convinced that we did not reject them before. In my youth in the Bicol region, we used balimbing as an extender for dinuguan. I used to enjoy ripe balimbing fruits. So with santol, mabolo, chesa, duhat, makopa, and other fruits that are now almost extinct, I planted these rejected trees in my backyard 20 years ago, believing that the next generation will enjoy them as much as I did. Nutritionally, these fruits are superior to many common fruits. A 2016 article published in the Journal of Food and Drug Analysis compared mabolo with persimmon and apples. The first column of the table in this slide shows data for mabolo. The rest of the columns for different varieties of persimmon and apples. I quote from the abstract. Our data shows that mabolo is rich in dietary fiber at 3.2%, and the contents of other nutrients such as malic acid, vitamin B2, vitamin B3, folic acid, pantothenic acid, and choline chloride were high compared to the more popular fruits. Moreover, it is rich in calcium and zinc. Accordingly, the calcium content is about half that of fresh milk, and the zinc content is about half that of oysters. The flavor is like a combination of banana and apple. So why is the present generation rejecting these fruits. My theory is that we don't want them because we don't recognize them as food anymore. We probably did not introduce them to our children who grew up with fast food. In our collective modern mind, food has become or fast becoming synonymous with rice and chicken, hamburger and chips, and instant noodles, products of the modern fast food system. The fast food items shown on the slide belong to a category that literature refers to as the Western diet, rich in highly processed ingredients such as white rice, white flour, hamburger, unhealthy oils, sugar, and fat. They are cheap, convenient, and tasty. This is so because they are mass produced in areas with comparative advantage, marketed worldwide, and their ingredients are selected on the basis of maximizing benefits to the food industry. Traditional food in the mind of the present generation must be old-fashioned, not good enough to eat. This impression needs to be corrected. I will argue that we need to nurture fruits such as mabolo, santol, makopa, balimbing, and duhat, vegetables such as saluyot, alugbati, seaweeds, bamboo shoots, and mushrooms, protein-rich legumes such as mango, cowpea, bataw, and kalamismis, and our traditional staples such as kamote and banana. Let us not forget that as an archipelagic country, our ancestors have traditionally relied on fish and other seafoods. Together, this food represents our traditional food culture. First, let me explain the context of the term traditional food culture. Traditional food culture refers to the pattern of production, processing, and consumption that utilizes locally produced materials, including manner of preparation and mix of ingredients. Locally produced materials need not be indigenous to the place, but which, by virtue of similarity between the environment of the place of origin and place of production, have become indigenized. It is composed of dishes and patterns of consumption, that is seasonality, and historically associated with the region. For example, in my childhood, in the Bicol region, our family ate fish 6 days a week, and it is only on Sundays that we get to eat meat. Local could be a geographical or cultural region, varying in size, but sharing common preferences. In the Philippines, native dialect is a convenient but not necessarily accurate way of classifying food cultures. Thus, we have Ilocano, Kapampangan, and Ilonggo food cultures, among others. Traditional food culture can be characterized by a short value chain and sharing of produce in the community. Its location and season is specific, which means it's highly localized. Thus, diversity and nutrition in diet is guaranteed, and productivity of the food ingredient is maximized. It supports the local economy and local farmers, traders, and processors benefit. It supports local farming in terms of maintaining circularity in the food system. Byproducts and waste are returned to the farms, not disposed in a faraway landfill. In this manner, adhering to a traditional food culture can help improve income of local farmers and other players in the food value chain. Release food losses or reduce food losses make cheaper food available to consumers and promote environmental health. But what about the impact on nutrition and health of consumers? Is there a scientific basis for traditional food culture? Let's start with evolution science. Food culture and humans have evolved, mainly defined by the environment. Among environmental factors, food is the most intimate as it enters the body. Because of diversity of environments where humans live, there is an equal diversity of food cultures. Eskimos eat nothing but animals and seafoods for 10 months because they have no choice. They live in the Arctic region. The Maasai of Africa eat blood, milk, and meat of cattle as their landscape is predominantly grass and cattle. But they're one of the tallest people on earth, and they produce Olympic grade runners, the latest of whom is the marathon champion in the Tokyo Olympics. Pacific Islanders, including the Philippines, traditionally relied on fish and tropical root and tuber crops, coconut and fish for obvious reasons, and tropical root and tuber crops to take advantage of the long growing season and resilience against typhoons. In the subtemperate and temperate regions, grain crops are popular because they require a short season and they have good storage quality. Many food crops are killed by the cold winter season. In countries whose geography cuts across vast latitudes, there is preference for spicy food in the warm regions. Spicy foods offer protection against gastrointestinal diseases caused by contaminated food. India is 38% vegetarian because of the influence of religion. They are no less healthy than omnivores or carnivores. Within one country, there is also a proliferation of food cultures. In the Philippines, fermented fruits and vegetables or buro and bulalo are common in Batangas. Ginataan dishes are common in Bicol with a lot of chili. Insect dishes can be found in Pampanga. Ilocanos eat a lot more vegetables than other ethnic groups. It may be of interest that insects, next to fish, are the most efficient converter of feed. It takes 1 kilo of feed to produce 1 kilo of insect. For fish, it is 1:1.5. By comparison, among the major sources of animal protein today, chicken is the most efficient with a feed conversion ratio of 1:3. There are clear patterns as well. Fish and seafoods are common in all regions of the Philippines except those in the highlands. This is consistent with the archipelagic nature of the Philippines. Diversity of rice and staples The tradition that is traditional rice show diversity in color, size, shape, and plant type. Corn is a traditional staple in Visayas and Mindanao, kamote in Batanes. Root crops and banana are known to precede rice and corn as staples in traditional Filipino diet. This food diversity reflects the diversity of environment in terms of altitude, latitude, elevation, rainfall, and typhoons and soil types. Pinakbet is common in the lowlands, chop suey in the highlands. With kambing and chicken, we eat everything except the hair. For kambing, we even eat the undigested grass. You may be amazed that there is such a variety of dietary patterns internationally and within one country, from one that is almost entirely carnivorous to vegetarian. All of them have supported an apparently healthy population, or at least they survive to this day. If carnivores are correct, we should have seen a mass extinction of vegetarians. If vegetarians are correct, we should have seen a mass extinction of carnivores. But nothing of this sort has happened. This gives us a clue on the importance of food culture. If you eat what your ancestors ate, you are in good shape. Forget for a while the debate between carnivores and vegetarians. We do not fully understand the glaring truth that people adhering to such diverse dietary patterns as existed in traditional food cultures live to see today. This is a fertile field for scientific investigation. But there are clues from literature. Dr. Catherine Shanahan, in her book, Deep Nutrition, tried to discover the common features among traditional diets in different parts of the world where populations are supposed to be healthiest and live longest, and came up with 4 patterns. I will be quoting liberally from Dr. Shanahan's book and refer to Filipino food as illustrations. First, a common feature among healthy diets is the use of sprouted seeds such as togi or sprouted mung bean. Fermented foods such as quesong puti, burong santol, bagoong, and puto. During sprouting, seeds metabolize anti-nutrients and produce bioactive compounds that are more nourishing. For example, gamma-aminobutyric acid or GABA, which is known to have beneficial effects on such abilities as memory and cognition. I imagine that if our school children are persuaded to eat sprouted seeds on a regular basis, the Philippines does not have to be at the bottom of ranking of countries in academic performance. During fermentation, probiotics are produced by microorganisms, enhancing the nutritional value of such diverse food as milk, rice, fruits, and vegetables. Don't forget wine and beer. These are also products of fermentation. There is more than alcohol in these ancient drinks. Traditionally, we have tapoy from Benguet, basi from northern provinces, and lambanog from coconut in Nipa areas. A second feature is the use of meat on the bones, such as the famous bulalo and sinaing na tulingan o Batangas. During slow cooking, nutrients are released from the bones, and among this is the family of molecules called glycosaminoglycans, which is a collagen, which are associated with health of joints, cartilages, and ligaments. They're also associated with health of the skin, hair, and nails. Minerals such as calcium, potassium, iron are also released. The trick is slow cooking. Third is the preference for offals, blood, liver, heart, intestines. Think of dinuguan, sinigang na ulo ng isda. Offals are the cheaper part of meat in the grocery, but they are the most nutritious, according to Dr. Shana. They are rich in fat-soluble vitamins, such as vitamin A, vitamin B1, B2, vitamin B6, folate, vitamin C, niacin, and pantothenic acid. Fish eye and eyes in general are a good source of vitamin A and lutein. This yaki juice in the eye is primarily hyaluronic acid, which is rich in glycosaminoglycans. It's good for your joints, and the brain and nervous tissues are rich in omega-3 fatty acids. Lastly, a common feature among healthy populations is the use of fresh or minimally processed ingredients such as grains, fruits, and vegetables, meat, and fish. Fresh products are safer to eat and more nutritious. A good example is rice. When minimally processed, such as in the form of brown rice, rice is more nutritious and healthier than highly polished white rice. Shanahan's book is a good starting point for understanding the health benefits of our traditional foods. But there are new and not so new scientific knowledge that provide further understanding of the health impact of food. First is Epi Genetics. Food can influence gene expression, and there is a growing evidence that this influence is passed on to the next 2 or 3 generations. Thus, we may be doing fine today in spite of our bad food choices because of the healthy food choices of our parents. If we make bad decisions, however, we may not only harm ourselves, but our children and grandchildren as well. Second, the gut microbiome must be fed too. The population structure and the corresponding function of gut microbiome changes with the food we eat. Any drastic changes in food can negatively impact on the gut microbiome. It is now known that a diet rich in sugars, such as the Western diet, can alter the gut microbiome negatively. On the other hand, a diet rich in fiber can improve the population structure of the gut microbiome. We need to worry about the health of our gut microbiome because they influence our physical and mental health as well. What we do not get from food, our body makes. Example, glucose and cholesterol can be produced by the liver. Thus, we can get away with diverse traditional dietary patterns that may lack glucose and cholesterol without suffering from malnutrition. There are three consequences when traditional food culture is drastically altered. The first is metabolic syndrome, second, environmental impact, and third, rural poverty. Recent scientific literature has accounts of people from developing countries moving to Western countries and getting sick, acquiring the common ailment of their host population. The explanation is that none of these cultures have been exposed to the modern fast food diet that consists of highly processed grains such as white rice, meat, and unhealthy fats. Think of standard fast food menus. Added sugar, think of bottomless iced tea, and salt, think of snack chips. Today, we have a global epidemic of diseases associated with metabolic syndrome because we are experiencing mass migration to the Western diet. The number one cause of morbidity and mortality in the world today is not COVID-19. It is diseases associated with metabolic syndrome. But the shock is not limited to metabolic syndrome. It's also expressed as socioeconomic problems such as rural poverty and urban decay and deterioration of the environment. These shocks are felt worldwide with the massive switch to the Western diet over the last 50 years. We have a good idea of how these shocks came to be. Because of the need for a few species that are suited to a globalized food system, large-scale monoculture became the norm. This is true for crops, livestock, and fish. The result is resource depletion. Also, a result is pollution and global warming. The science behind the problems with large-scale monoculture and the so-called mass production practices associated with them is well known. So I'm not going to dwell on it at this time. Another impact is on rural poverty because we prefer to eat food produced elsewhere which are cheaper, more convenient, and tastier. When we eat instant noodles, we are really feeding the wheat farmers of America. Our local farmers could not compete with industrially produced food, so either they suffer in poverty or leave for the city, causing another problem, which is urban poverty. With regards to health impact, the good news is that studies The good news is that studies have shown that people recover when returned to their traditional food. This means that there is hope for us who are suffering from metabolic syndrome due to the adherence to the Western diet. But I do not have any idea to show that returning to traditional food can have a positive impact on poverty and the environment. I'm not aware of any experiment or any long-term study. My guess is that there will be a temporary increase in food prices, maybe even food shortages. The return is not going to be easy, because we have embarked on the path to large-scale monoculture years ago, which has changed the structure of our farms and agricultural institutions. Today, more than 80% of our arable land is utilized for only three crops: rice, corn, and coconut, and up to 70% of diverted water is used for irrigating rice. A more compelling justification for restoring traditional food cultures are existential threats such as the COVID pandemic, climate change, and another world war that can disrupt trade and commerce or otherwise reduce the supply of commodity foods. Moving away from paddy rice and beef, commodity foods that are known for their greenhouse gas emissions, can help reduce the impact of farming on global warming. Establishing a localized food system based on diverse food ingredients is the best guarantee for food security in the face of all these threats. A complementary strategy for dealing with pandemics such as COVID-19 is to improve the resistance of the human body against disease. This is provided by the better nutrition that traditional food provides. For this event, I have only one recommendation. This is for the College of Agriculture and Food Science to provide national leadership in reassessing, reinvigorating, or if needed, reinventing traditional food culture as a science-based approach to food system transformation and food security. It is a great challenge that only strong institutions such as the UB College of Agriculture and Food Science can passively take on. As you can imagine, this is a multidimensional challenge covering production, marketing, processing, culinary arts, and finally, the most challenging of all, altering consumption habits. Other units of UPLB may have to be recruited to help address these challenges. This recommendation is embedded in the NAST food system vision prepared by a team that includes Dr. Binglit and Dr. Rodel Maghirang, representing UP Los Baños. I hope that they can help formulate the needed programs for the desired food system transformation. Thank you and a good day.